Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Coach Up Academy, and today we are going to deal about Mendelian disorder. What is Mendelian disorder? So Mendelian disorders are the disorders which are generally determined by the mutation in a single gene. When there is an alteration in a single gene, then this type of the disorder take place. These are those type of disorders which can be transferred from parents to their offspring. Generally, as we studied in the principle of inheritance, that characters are transferred from parents to the offspring. In the same manner, these are also the disorders which can be transferred from parents to their offspring. Other conditions is that these disorders can be easily traced in a particular family with the help of a pedigree analysis. There are some of the disorders like hemophilia, color blindness, thalassemia, sickle cell anemia, and some other examples are also given in the NCERT. So we are just dealing with each and every disorder in detailed manner. In this lecture, we are just going to deal with the very first, that is hemophilia. Hemophilia is also called as, or it is transferred, it is a sex-linked recessive disorder. What it is? The inheritance pattern or in what fashion it can be transmitted, it is a sex-linked recessive disorder. So make sure it is the very important word, or we can say very important question from examination point of view, that hemophilia is a sex-linked recessive disorder. Make sure you will not forget this. The another condition, that hemophilia is also called as bleeder's disease. Why is it so? Why is it called bleeder's disease? Because it causes excess bleeding. Even after a minute cut, small cut, एक छोटा कट लग गया या बहुत ही minute cut लगा है, then too there is an excess loss of blood from the particular body, from the particular human's body. हम लोग कहें, if a person is suffering from the hemophilia, कोई अगर person hemophilia से पीड़ित है और उसमें एक छोटा सा भी कट लग जाता है, तो उसकी बॉडी से बहुत ज्यादा ब्लड का लॉस होगा, and sometimes this loss even on that level that it may lead to the death of that particular organism. So therefore it is called as the bleeder's disease. How it is caused? If we talk about how it is caused because of the disorders of some proteins. There are so many proteins which we know very well. So there are some proteins which are responsible for the clotting, of blood. So what these proteins do, they form a cascade of proteins, or simply we can say they are forming a chain which is helpful in the blood clotting. But because of the disorders of these proteins, वो chain नहीं बन पाती. As this chain has not been formed, they are unable to clot the blood. So when there is the clot has been not formed, तो बहुत ज़्यादा blood का loss होगा. So therefore, from even a minute cut as well. So therefore, this is also called, this is known as bleeder's disease. So अगर हम लोग बात करें कि these proteins are responsible, तो even a single protein, अगर कोई एक single protein भी होगा, तो that single protein may also lead to this particular disease, that is hemophilia. So there are so many kind of the hemophilias are there. There is the one is Haemophilia-A, and the another one is Haemophilia-B. The Haemophilia-A is caused due to the lack of factor 8. The clotting factors are there. Generally, so many clotting factors are there. When we are going through with this, so we just find out that there are so many clotting factors which are responsible for the clotting of blood. So they just gave some name to them, or the number has been given, that is clotting factor 1, clotting factor 2, clotting factor 3, and so on. So there is a one specific, that is clotting factor 8, due to which the hemophilia-A has been caused. Whereas the hemophilia-B, it is caused by the clotting factor 9. This clotting factor A, the name of this clotting factor A is AHF, anti-hemophilic factor. Anti-hemophilic factor. So the clotting factor 8 named as anti-hemophilic factor. Because of the lack of this factor, the person is suffered from hemophilia A. Whereas the hemophilia B, which is a clotting factor 9, the name of this clotting factor is Christmas factor. So these are the two different factors. Because of the lack of these two different factors, the other two different types of the hemophilias are there. The hemophilia A, which is caused due to the lack of clotting factor 8, which we call as the anti-hemophilic factor, whereas the hemophilia B, which is caused by the lack of hemophilic factor, clotting factor 9, which is called as the Christmas factor. So there are the some recall we can talk about that. The hemophilia is a sex-linked recessive disorder, the most important thing. The second thing, that it is also called as the breeder's disorder, or because of which excess bleeding occurs in that. Whereas there are some proteins which are responsible for the clotting of blood, but because of the disorders of these protein factors, the clotting will not take place and the person will suffer from the hemophilia. Whereas अगर हम लोग इसके inheritance की बात करें, how it can be inherited. So for the inheritance, that it can be inherited in this manner. If a female, this H for the hemophilia. If a particular female which has the hemophilic factor on one of the chromosome, when this is present on the one of the chromosome, then in that case the particular female will be carrier. She will not affected from this disease. She will be the carrier for this disease. Whereas if the male, if on the male, if this hemophilic factor is present, then the particular male will be the affected one. Okay, so let's take an example in case of a normal male. हम लोग यहाँ पे will take a normal male. So when they are mating, then this condition, and in this case, that is, if when the carrier female is mating with the normal male, then it produces again a carrier female. But in this case, the male will be affected one. So the carrier female can only transfer the disease to the male child, but the female child will be the carrier one. If we talk about for this, if this X is going to be fused, so ultimately it forms the normal offsprings. This type of the crossings we know very well. वो हमें पता है कि what type of the conditions normal females. When we say कि अगर female has to be affected from this disease, when this condition is there, then only the female will be the affected from this. And when this condition can be present, that is, we just make a cross. A carrier female is mated with the affected male. So in this case, only the female will be the affected one. But this is a quite rare condition. It will not take place generally, because in this case the male is required to be affected, but the affected male will not be survive up to that age limit, after which they get married and then they transfer this to the next generation. So therefore the female will always be the carrier of this particular disease. ये condition जो है, that is when the male is affected. So when the particular male is affected, they are unable to survive to that particular age limit when they get married, and then they get transfer this particular character to the next generation. Therefore, the females are generally carrier for this type of disorders. They are only transfer this disorder to the male progeny, and the male are the affected one. So that is just recall. Before this, we just take a look on some example. That is the Queen Victoria. She was the carrier of this disorder, or we can say that this disease, and she transferred this disease to many of their descendants. जितने भी उनके वंशज रहे, whatever the number of progenies which developed furthermore in the generation after generation, they all were suffered from this disease, and the females were the carrier. So as she was the carrier, so ultimately the number of the descendants were suffered from this disease. So take a look of all these topics. हम लोगों ने पढ़ा that hemophilia, which is a sex-linked recessive, the most important word, whereas it is also called as a bleeder's disease. Why? Because it causes excess bleeding or excessive bleeding, because there is a clotting will not take place. And why the clotting has not been take place? Because of the some proteins, because of the disorder of some proteins. And what these type of the proteins, on which on that basis हमने classify किया the hemophilia are of the two types, Haemophilia-A, Haemophilia-B. Haemophilia-A is because of the clotting factor 8 and Haemophilia-B of the clotting factor 9. The clotting factor A is also known as anti-hemophilic factor, whereas the clotting factor 9 is called as the Christmas factor. So these are the disorders and they are the patterns. If we are talking for the patterns, then this will be the affected male, the carrier female, and the affected female. So just make sure these are the genotypes. These are the genotypes of this disorder. Please make sure this is also the important one. This is also the important one, because on this genotype only number of times the question has been asked, crossing पूछी जाती हैं जिसमें आपसे पूछा जाता है what the genotype of the particular organism, the parents का या फिर किसी child का आपसे पूछ लिया जाता है in AIIMS and the NEET. So please remember these genotypes. If you memorize these genotypes, then you will be able to solve these type of questions easily. I hope कि आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आया होगा. So please do hit like button and subscribe my channel too, and stay tuned for the upcoming videos. Thank you.